Most people start a business because they like to make a product or they like to sell a product, and then the business begins to grow. And then that owner becomes conservative, stops taking risk, but has hired managers that helps him build the business. And so we look for that dynamic where the managers underneath the owners are saying, boy, I want to go forward. I want to take some more risks. And then the owner says, you know what, I want to sell. And then once the managers become owners, and once they have the ability to make their own decisions, that's management liberation.
Brynavon was started by my grandpa. He was just a business broker, and he was selling a business in Owasso, Michigan. My grandpa and the president of the company got to talking, and the president was saying, the owner doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know why he's selling the business. And my grandpa said, well, why don't you buy the business? And he said, I don't have two dimes to rub together. That was an original LBO management buyout back in 1973.
As soon as I graduated and joined my father, most of my friends went to Wall Street. And I was 6 months in the factory floor. I worked for a 19-year-old Texas woman. And after a week or two, she looked at me and she said, if your daddy owns the company, why are you working for me? Most people that buy manufacturing companies are MBAs, students of finance. But when you can really talk about the challenges and the language of manufacturing, because you're there, you've been a press operator, you understand the issues that are involved, I think it really sets you apart.
When we look for an acquisition, we're looking for our next partner, and each company is so different in what they need, but it's really about the people and the partners that we're working with.
So I'd had some prior experience working with private equity groups, and so when I met with them, it was refreshing. They were interested in the team and the ability for the team to take the business to a different level.
They are like coaches. They are there to support the team and help bring them to the next phase without getting in and taking over. One of the first things Jordy said to me was, look, this is your deal. I don't need another job. And I'm like, that's fantastic.
My dad owned the company and decided he was ready to retire.
We knew we could run it and we knew we could buy the company, but we didn't know how. There are a lot of obstacles and a lot of challenges in purchasing a business from one generation to the next. I think we started getting comfortable when us as the buyer started to learn that Brynavon was on our side rather than just an uninterested party.
During sort of the 89 to 91 contraction, I came back to my father. I said, listen, why don't we take some of our investments, roll it up and take it public? It turned into a disaster. I would never be a public company again. That's when I had to sort of reflect on how is this business model going to change? And when we sold one of our divisions, when we were a public company, a gentleman named Tim Penner ran it. And for years under our sort of public entity, public ownership, we kept trying to manage Tim to reduce his inventory. And then one day when we said, Tim, we want you to buy this division from him. And he did. Guess what? 6 months later, after owning it, the inventory went down by $500,000. 12 months later, it went down by $1 million, and his sales went up by 15%. And so that was kind of the thesis that I had, is real ownership by managers that are making the decisions. It changes when it's their cash and their business.
Once you have ownership in a company, you feel there's a commitment that maybe you didn't share previously that you feel is warranted now.
Jordy, his first words to me was, you've made a lot of money for a lot of people. Now it's time you make money for yourself.
When things are really hard and recession lasts longer than you expect, you really find out who your partners are when you have to survive in a hard market. And that was a bond that really can't be described. And we survived, and now we're thriving.
And as a kid, you don't know much. Your dad wears a tie and he goes to the big fancy office. I didn't really know much about what he did. And I sort of gently asked my dad, I'm like, so Dad, what does the Brynavon Group do? I really got to learn what it is that we do and why it's so different from other family offices or private equity groups. That's why I love working at the Brynavon Group so much, because that's sort of the values that I hold true to myself, and I really feel like it's what we do on a larger scale.
Anytime your children go forward in what you're trying to do, that's exciting. And the definition of children can be a pretty broad net. Obviously, I have 2 sons, but also I think everybody that is an owner in our organization, they're part of the family. And so when you see them succeed, that's super exciting.